welcome everybody to Croydon Vision's Facebook Live event. I hope that last week you enjoyed our Braille session, Introduction to Braille, and us doing your initials in Braille and learning a bit about sort of ABC and 1, 2, 3 and all about Braille and communication. I hope you enjoyed that one. It will be up on our C Hub, so if you've missed it, go on the C Hub and sort of enjoy it, enjoy viewing it. Now, before I introduce today, I'm going to talk about next week. Next week is all about volunteering. So it's going to be how you can use volunteering to get new skills and how it can sort of help you to employment or just help you do something in your life, something interesting, meeting new people. So all about how volunteering can help you as a person. And Today I have Seeability with me. I have 3 people who are eye care champions, but who are not with me in the studio. They're remote, they're virtual in their own flats and houses, remotely joining us through Zoom. So hello and welcome to Wayne, Grace and Lars. Hello, welcome.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello.
So, Seeability. A lot of people might not have heard about Seeability. So Wayne, I think you're going to be the first one to talk to us. Could you kind of give us a little bit, maybe a history and what Seeability do and how did it all start?
Okay, thank you so much, Adette. Well, nice to be with you all this afternoon. Okay, so essentially, Seeability has been around for a very long time. It was first founded in 1799 by 4 philanthropists. Ooh. And it was founded then as a school for the blind, although it wasn't really a school in a conventional sense. This was long before there was any formal education for blind or partially sighted people, and certainly way before the invention of Braille in 1822.
Yeah. So, wow, I didn't realize it was that long ago. I thought it was, a couple of years or maybe 10 years. I really didn't realize. That's amazing.
Oh, no. And its purpose then essentially was to provide self-employment in some kind of craft industry, sort of woodwork, basket working, etc., for people to gain self-employment as blind people, who would otherwise would not have had the chance to get anything like that. And also it did provide accommodation. Eventually it became the Royal School for the Blind, and it moved from London to Leatherhead. Yeah. And essentially later on, a lot of people who were coming through to the organization were people with more complex needs as well as visual impairment. Yeah. And so in 1994, we eventually changed to our current name of Seeability. Yeah. And we have more of a national presence. And at this point, I would like to hand over to Grace to speak to you all about the services that we provide.
Welcome, Grace. Hello.
Seeability provides both supported living, residential care and outreach services for people with visual impairment, autism, learning disability, and yeah, that's what they are doing at the moment.
So why don't you speak a bit about sort of the fact that you live in Seeability accommodation, Grace, and what it gives you?
Okay. I'm actually employed by Seeability and supported by Seeability. I live in Maidstone in Kent. And it's good. I enjoy it.
So you have like independent accommodation with a bit of support?
I live in a house with 5 others.
Fantastic, excellent.
Okay, and something else that we do is we also have the eye care and vision team, and that essentially is where we sit as eye care champions for people with learning disabilities and autism. And so maybe, Lance, you could explain a bit about where we're based and also a bit about us all as individuals and particularly focusing on our different disabilities.
Welcome, Lars. Hello.
Thank you. Hello. So we have 3 London eye care champions from Seeability, and we also have 4 eye care champions in the Northwest as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have different disabilities. I am mildly autistic. Grace has a learning disability and has visually impaired as well. And Wayne is totally blind, has been totally blind from birth. So we each bring different qualities to the team. And so our main goal as London Eye Care Champions is to promote eye care around for people with learning disabilities and autism to universities or health groups and clinics as well.
That is really amazing. And how do opticians do eye tests for people with learning disabilities? Because obviously, if you can't read ABC, or if you find yourself in the dark and in an environment you're not used to, that is very stressful. How do you get around that? What kind of techniques do opticians, can you sort of show opticians?
Okay, Grace, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. Nobody is too disabled to have an eye test.
Mm-hmm.
Adults with learning disabilities are 10 times more likely to have a serious sight problem.
Yeah.
And children are 28 times more likely to have a serious sight problem.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, there are a number of different ways that you can do a sight test. You don't have to be able to read. You can use K pictures,
Mm-hmm.
like car, house, shoe, and they either sign or point to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's Cardiff cards, which is like matching. So you try and match one card to the other. Sometimes the optometrist can actually look inside of the eye with a retinal scope, and they can get an idea of what you can see from that. Mm-hmm. So you don't even need to be able to speak.
Mm-hmm. And do you come across a lot of children or adults who actually should have had eye tests and who haven't because of their disabilities?
Yeah. At the moment, Seeability over the last several years have been going into 5 special schools.
Yeah.
To do sight testing, and NHS England are taking over that. And it was meant to be April this year, because of COVID it got delayed.
Yeah.
There was every special school in England will have a sight testing facility in special schools.
And do you have like sort of case studies or stories or people in particular that you know that you have made a huge difference in their lives through having done an eye test, wearing glasses? Do you know of any kind of stories like that? Do you come across people?
Yeah, there was a young individual called Nathaniel,
Mm-hmm.
who was in a special school in London, and his vision, he was put in a challenging behaviour class,
Mm-hmm.
because they thought he had a challenging behaviour.
Yeah.
But they realised he couldn't see more than 2 or 3 inches in front of his face.
Well, that's not a lot.
No. So he then had a sight test, and they realised his vision was so poor, but now he's gone to college, is learning sign language, he can now ride a bike.
Oh, fantastic. That is such a fantastic story. Thank you for sharing this with us. So, maybe there's some, do we have any comments, Ola? Anybody's written us any questions?
Not yet, everyone's still just...
Not yet. Okay, fantastic. Now, maybe if I would like to know, have Seeability or have the eye care champions, have you been into Croydon?
Yes, actually, very recently. Not face to face as yet, but
Yeah.
certainly remotely.
Yeah.
We have already met up with Croydon MenCap, who actually put us on to your chief executive, Susanette, who we had a brief
Yes.
chat with back in February. And that's the
Fantastic.
reason why we're here this afternoon.
Yes.
And we also are giving presentations to the Croydon Autism Partnership Board about eye care. We're also giving presentations to the Learning Disability Partnership Board in Croydon.
Fantastic.
And we are also going to be giving a presentation to staff at Croydon MenCap.
Excellent. So if people wanted to get in contact with an eye care champion from Seeability, how do they do? What was the best way?
Well, I would say the best way really is email. I mean, by all means, you can send an email to all three of us.
Do you
we'll
want
give
to?
our email addresses.
Yeah, if you say your email, and Ola will write it and type it in the comments. So Wayne, what is your email address?
So my email address is my initial w.chapman@seeability.org. That's w.chapman@seeability.org.
Excellent. And Grace, what is your email address?
It's g.mcgill@seeability.org.
And McGill, how
Is MCGILL.
fantastic. And Lance, what is your email address?
It's l.campbell@seeability.org.
And how do you spell Campbell?
CAMPBELL.
Fantastic, thank you. Now, another aspect I was thinking about that would be probably very interesting to our viewers as well is that as you are, all three of you, working in employment as disabled people, it's sort of, you are really three fantastic role models for us. And we are also helping people with disabilities at Croydon Vision to find employment. So it would be really interesting for us to learn a little bit how how you get along, what it means to you. So my first question is going to be to you, Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Is this like your first job, or have you been employed before? And also, what kind of support have you found?
Okay, right, okay. So it's not my first job. I have worked most of my life actually in the field of disability.
Fantastic.
I work for Seeability full-time as an eye care champion. Lance and Grace work part-time. But essentially, I've found them to be a great organisation. They're very supportive. In fact, it's the best job I've ever had. And I find it's a very, very positive environment. And I've had support from Access to Work when I applied for my job.
Yeah.
Just
to give an idea, Wayne, what kind of software do you use, say, when you use a computer?
Okay, so I use JAWS software. I'm sure most people are aware of JAWS that provides speech on the computer. Yeah. And I also use a Braille display in front of my keyboard.
Yeah, yeah. Do you use a support worker?
No, I don't need one because everything is actually available for me in Braille. For example, when we're in the office and we actually do meet face to face, or the kit that we have, for example, the sim specs that we've got Braille labels on.
Fantastic. That's really good.
Because we are a co-working environment, I mean, I'll let Lance say more about this in a minute, but I mean, like, for example, I don't need a support worker. Pretty much Lance and I support each other.
That's excellent. So with colleagues between you kind of help each other as a team.
Yes.
Yes. Fantastic. That is really good. And so what kind of things would you do on a kind of day-to-day basis? Do you actually meet? So you just said you go to meetings and you kind of tell people about eye test, how important eye test? You kind of do speeches? Is that what you kind of do?
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. So what we do, I mean, it can vary very much
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis. So essentially, has been said before, we actually promote the importance of eye care to people with learning
Yeah.
disability and autism already for them. So that can include so many things, such as giving presentations to local
Yes.
advocacy groups for
Yeah.
learning disabilities. We also give presentations to students wishing to become learning disabilities nurses at different universities.
Yes, very good.
We also speak to clinicians about the importance of eye care
Yeah.
for people with learning disabilities, because there really is a lot of gaps in knowledge and so many misperceptions.
Yeah.
We also write articles to different publications
Yeah.
in the learning disabilities field. We attend conferences and exhibitions face-to-face when possible.
So you guys must be out and about most of the time.
Well, sometimes, certainly. I mean, certainly before COVID,
Yeah.
March last year was meant to have been the month when we were hoping to spread our wings like eagles, really, but we did about a third of that.
Oh, no.
But we also speak to the visual impairment sector
Yes.
to make them aware of the needs of people with learning disabilities as well, because that's really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as I say, we used to travel around a lot to meet different people, but right now we're all working virtually and have been for over a year.
But you know that's something very interesting, because a lot of people might think that somebody totally blind who works is going to be stuck in an office, or is going to not be able to, if you want, go out and about, go to conferences, schools, clinics, you know, that kind of role. So it's really good that you share this with us, Wayne. It's really excellent. And let's go over to Grace. Grace, how is this your first job, and how are you finding it?
No, it's not my first job.
Okay, fantastic. And so how long have you been
It is my first job, sorry.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you been a eye care champion?
Since July 2019.
Fantastic. And do you like the role?
I love it. Every day is different. There's a lot of variety.
Fantastic.
And I've been really supported by both my colleagues and my manager.
Fantastic. And do you use, Lars said that you also had a bit of sight loss, you were visually impaired. Do you use a special software?
I use Supernova on a computer, which is a screen magnifier.
Yes, that's what I used to use. I'm visually impaired as well, so I used to use Supernova. It's very good.
Change the colours.
Yes.
Did you?
No, I didn't. I used mainly the magnification because it was very sharp, very good magnification.
Yeah.
Thank you, Grace. And Lars, what about you? Is being an eye care champion your first job?
Yes, yeah, it's been my first job. Before I came to Seeability, I was on an internship at Charing Cross Hospital called Project Search, which is an organisation for young people aged 16 to 25 with learning disabilities and autism to help them to find a job.
So, so you found that an internship was like your way into then finding another job,
Yeah.
That was very good. And do you use any particular software that helps with your disability?
No.
Okay.
But I did, as coming into Seeability, did use Access to Work.
Yeah.
And had someone come with me like on my first day and to help support me.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, I got more and more comfortable with Seeability, and I was able to go and do it by myself.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. Let's ask Ola if we have any questions.
Just give me a sec. Oh, wait, can you hear me?
If you read it out, I'll maybe.
Okay, so your one would be how is it working as a visually impaired person in a work area?
Okay, so we have somebody who has asked, how is it working as a visually impaired person in a work environment? And I think, so Grace, you're visually impaired. When you
Yeah.
started, when you started to look for jobs, did you think you would find a job easy, or did you think that it would be very difficult? Were you scared of doing your first, of finding a job? Did you think it was going to be difficult?
To be honest, I wasn't sure about how difficult it was going to be.
Yeah.
I was more keen to just apply.
Yeah.
Before I started this job, I used to help Seeability out quite a lot and do presentations about eye care. I used to help do interviews.
So would you say you were a volunteer before?
Yeah.
Were
I
you?
used to help out Seeability on a voluntary basis.
Yeah. So your way into finding a job was to be a volunteer first, and then you applied when a position came up.
Yeah.
That's really good. So Lance did it through an internship, you did it through a volunteer. So it's really good to share that, because sometimes when people are looking for a job, they're not quite sure, how are they going to work? I'm visually impaired, what can I do? A lot of people ask themselves those questions. So it's really, it's really nice to share our stories.
Just to add to that as well, Odette, one of the reasons why I got this job here at Seeability, I'd worked at RNIB for many years, working on the RNIB helpline, etc. So therefore I had lots of knowledge about eye care. But the thing about volunteering, just to add on to that from Grace, in my late teens up until my early 30s, I used to go on an annual pilgrimage to Lourdes in southern France, or Lourdes as they say in English.
Oh, yes.
And I used to go there as the group's interpreter and musician with this group of disabled children. And most of the children that we took with us had autism or learning disabilities. So therefore I had that hands-on experience.
Yes.
So volunteering can be very, very useful. And often you'd be surprised how much of your personal experiences might actually help you get that dream job.
Absolutely. You have to try all sorts of different things and put as many skills and experiences in your life to open doors, I suppose. That's what it does, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Any other comments, Ola? Have we got any?
So just a follow up on that one. So now that you've actually gotten work, is there some things that you've actually learned from working that you can teach other people? Is there some difficulties in some aspects? Anything? So
I think we have another question. Is that now that you are working, and sort of what kind of skills have you learnt since you've been working as a eye care champion? What kind of new skills have you learnt? So, Wayne, what kind of new skills have you learnt at Seeability?
I think with me, it's been learning more about working on a day-to-day basis with people with learning disabilities and autism.
Yes.
I think that's probably the biggest one for me, really, because obviously I've worked for many years, and I've learned so much. I thought I knew so much before I came, but I clearly didn't.
Yeah. And you, Grace, what kind of new skill have you learned since you've been working with Seeability as an eye care champion?
I've learned to develop my confidence in doing presentations, and I can now deliver a presentation with very little help.
Fantastic, that's amazing. And Lars, what about you? What have you learned since you've been working for Seeability?
So just like Grace, confidence in doing presentations, and also learning about visual impairment. And also, and I think Wayne mentioned briefly earlier that I'd come onto this as well, is that I have also learned how to guide Wayne, who is totally blind, which is something I've never done before.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
guiding him on the train, guiding him on the bus, or
yeah.
guiding him to different events. I've learned how to do that, and it's been very enjoyable.
Excellent. That is really good. So if you were to sort of talk to our audience, to our Croydon Vision members, would you recommend that even if somebody is visually impaired, they would actually benefit from having regular eye tests?
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Very important to have an eye test. At least
really
once
is.
every 2 years or more often if necessary.
Because I think sometimes when people have an eye condition, they think that, oh well, I can't see because that's my condition. Whether they have, I don't know, whether it's, well, I've got Stargardt's disease, so maybe I think that the reason why I can't see so well is my Stargardt's disease, but so I won't go to the optician, for example, to have an eye test. So would you recommend I would go and have regular eye tests as well?
Yeah. You need to having an eye test doesn't just deal with the vision. You can pick up a lot of health problems from looking at the back of someone's eye.
Okay.
For example, you can tell whether you've got diabetes from having a sight test.
Thank you. Now that's really, really interesting to know that. So thank you very much. And I think, I'm not sure, we don't have any. Do you want to add anything, Wayne, or any?
Well, yes, there's quite a few things to add, really. I think what I kind of want to make, to speak, for example, is about the different perceptions, really. A lot of people think that eye care for people with learning disabilities or autism is kind of not necessary sometimes, or maybe lack of experience can come into play. So, for example, some opticians might not quite know how to go about testing the eyes of people with learning disabilities.
Yeah.
And therefore, what we advocate really is a very flexible approach, respecting the person, speaking to the person, even if the person might be non-verbal. But it's, after all, it's their eye care. I also would suggest that the optician thinks about giving extra time to the person. With a learning disability, as Grace has said, you don't need to speak or read to do an eye test. There are other ways around it. I would also suggest that it's really important to get in contact with us, and we can speak to opticians or indeed anyone sort of more about what good eye care looks like. We'd even be happy to give presentations to individuals if need be, or different opticians, to kind of make them more aware.
Wayne, what about parents? If parents have a child who has learning disabilities and who they haven't managed to have an eye test, can parents come to you and get some support?
They can certainly speak to us, yes. But I mean, we're hoping that if their child goes to a special school, we're hoping that eventually there will be the chance for that child to have their eyes tested in a special school, because that, I mean, we really are very much the global firsts on this one. We have started doing it since 2013 in schools, as Ray told you earlier on. And as a result of our findings, the NHS in England now are rolling out across the nation. It's taking time, but it's happening. Essentially, it's really, really crucial for children, well, for everybody, to have the right eye test if they need it, really. And the good thing about it being done in a special school is that it's done in an environment that the child knows only too well. That's really, really crucial.
And does this happen also all around the world? Is there like a worldwide, a global movement on this? Do you know any sort of?
I have no idea, to be honest, Odette. But to be honest with you, I mean, like, we are the global. We are very much the ones who are really highlighted this as an
Fantastic.
organisation.
And so Lars mentioned a few eye care champions up in the north. Are there? How many do Seeability have? Sort of, what's your kind of coverage, or are you hoping to expand, or?
So eventually, I mean, we are the guinea pigs, if you like, here in London.
Oh,
and
well
also
done.
in the northwest.
Well done.
But we are hoping eventually to have eye care champions across England, certainly. And hopefully we
Fantastic.
can
So
influence
opportunities for new members of your team, opportunities
Absolutely.
in the future.
Abs-
Excellent.
Absolutely. But what I would definitely want to stress as well is that since the pandemic, obviously we're all working virtually.
Yes.
We are actually offering advice on a national level at the moment as well. Remotely.
Okay, that is really good to know. We have a few juniors here, a few parents, a few families that come to Croydon Vision as well. So we'll make sure that all the parents know.
Sure. Would it be useful for you to know about the different stats about children? So, for example, for people with learning, for example.
Oh yes, go
adults.
on. Give us a few stats, because I think very few people will know about it. So it's always quite good to know kind of the reach, what kind of
Why
what's
don't
happening.
you go for that, Grace?
I was just about to. Could you tell that I was itching to?
Yes, I could.
Okay. Sorry about this, Wayne, and that.
That's all right. Don't worry. Carry on.
Go for it, Grace.
Go for it, Grace.
Adults are 10 times more likely to have a serious sight problem, and children are 28 times more likely to have a serious sight problem.
So that's quite a lot, isn't it? So
It's very high.
yeah.
And also about glasses, Grace. Do you want to speak a bit about glasses, maybe a little bit as well?
Yeah. Isn't it 6 in 10 adults with learning disabilities need glasses?
6 in 10. That is a lot. Yes. So how do you actually then support if somebody has learning disabilities, is not used to wearing glasses? How do you kind of support and convince them that glasses are good for them? Are going to help them?
I know that when they're dispensed in the special schools, the dispensing optician and the optometrist help assist the children to wear their glasses.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good.
And also, it's important to explain to the child that, that it's for their benefit, because so often glasses can be broken,
Exactly.
Glasses can become dirty, so it's really, really important to keep them clean.
Yeah.
It's absolutely essential that the child has to understand eventually. It might be required to take baby steps initially.
Yes.
Because the child might initially want to reject the glasses, or indeed adults can do that sometimes.
Exactly.
For example, if you're an adult, anyone really, but I'm thinking particularly about somebody with a learning disability.
Because it would feel a bit funny at the beginning to have this on your face, in a sense.
Well, it would feel funny. It would be a bit like having too much vision initially, and then thinking, oh, this isn't quite normal. Plus the invasion of space, of course, on the face.
Yeah.
So it has to be sort of got round to gradually.
Yeah. Excellent.
We also are instrumental in Seeability about creating a LOCSU pathway. LOCSU being Local Optical Consumer Committee Support Unit.
Yeah.
Say that one again.
It's Local Optical Committee Support Unit.
And what would that do? What's the kind of thinking behind it?
Basically, the LOCSU pathway gives extra funding to optician practices to give more reasonable adjustments to having a sight test for someone with a learning disability. Mm-hmm. For example, the individual, because it might not be just a child, maybe an adult as well. Yeah. They may need multiple visits to the practice. Mm-hmm. They may need extra time because it may take, 4 or 5 visits to do all the sight test. Yeah. But doing all of that is costly and isn't covered by the standard sight test. Isn't covered by the standard sight test, and also the optician and optometrist would be given more specialist training in learning disability,
Yeah, yeah.
and they would just spend more time with the individual,
Yeah.
and could also possibly do home visits if that was required and if that's something that was offered.
Now that's very interesting. Thank you very much. Please keep us up to date with what's happening in that direction.
Well, what I would say, I mean, because Croydon right now is there are 3 London boroughs that have a LOXU pathway. Croydon doesn't. Most London boroughs don't. But I mean, if it's something that would be of interest to people in Croydon, then please do get in contact with us, because we can probably try and make that happen.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Wayne. Now that's very. I'll come back to you for that
I went
one.
and did some presentations to the LOXUs in all over the country.
Fantastic. That's really good. Well,
could you give us the website so we can put it on the comment as well?
is that the Seeability website?
Yes.
Could you give us your Seeability website so we can write it down on the comments?
Lance, do you want to do that?
Okay, so it's www.
Yeah.
Seeability.
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
Is it .org?
So it's .org.uk.
.org.uk.
No, just .org.
.org by
sorry.
itself. Okay.
Thank you. I'm just going to put that in.
Great. So Ola's, our technician, is putting it up on the comments.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, do we have any more comments or questions? No, not for today. Well, Lance and Grace and Wayne, thank you very much for coming on our Croydon Vision Facebook Live event. It was really interesting, really informative, and I hope that if any of our viewers have any questions for Seeability, do contact them, or you can come to Croydon Vision and we will pass them on to the eye care champions. And for next week, we will have our Facebook Live event at the same time on Thursday at 4 o'clock, and it will be all about volunteering. So until then, bye-bye, and a big thank you for the Seeability Eye Care Champions. So bye-bye, Wayne, bye, Grace, bye, Lance.
Thank you as well for letting us be involved.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a really good
Been
experience.
really good.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Bye.
Okay, bye for now then. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.